allowing this to continue for 3 months, it means that the state has to be there. State has to be present. Government should have effectively responded. There was ample of time and opportunity on 3rd of May. People are being burnt alive, isn't it? People are being raped. People are being buried alive, chopped up, isn't it? Eyes being ripped, intestines being ripped out. So, and we are hearing of gross parents every now and then. So, are these examples of law and order being in place? A conflict of this magnitude cannot take place without the participation of the state. This is not an ethnic conflict. This is not an conflict between the Kukis and the Meitei. This is a conflict between people who want to break Manipur using drug money and drug power. We cannot generalize, one whole community as wholly responsible or taking part in the cartel. You can't do that. We know Manipur is sitting on a bed of minerals and oil. So ethnic segregation is only going to help in the furtherance of these mining activities. When I went to arrest some big fishes, then they started having problem with me. Not that I had problem with them. Something which has got the capability of changing the landscape of the state in terms of drug abuse and drug proliferation. When you do not allow it to happen, when you interfere in it and allow things to continue in the same old manner, then things are bound to erupt. So if the war on drugs is really effective and genuine, then state should have won the war, isn't it, by now? There shouldn't be any conflict, there shouldn't be any violence, there shouldn't be any communal strife. We have to find out which people and which institutions are being benefited out of it. Manipur police cannot operate in the hills anymore now. So poppy harvest is going to start from next month till the month of March. So there is going to be bumper harvest this year.
This is the News Minute, and thank you for joining us, Brinda Thounaojam, a lawyer, an activist, and then a policeman, and then a politician. So now you are the main opposing figure to Biren Singh's BJP government in Manipur. So we are here to discuss the conflict in Manipur with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your life before you joined civil service? We've heard that you've talked a lot about self-determination. You've talked a lot about your life as a lawyer and environmental activist. So can you briefly describe how was your life before you came to police service?
I was a lawyer. I was an activist before I wrote the civil service exam. And eventually I got selected and I struggled to get appointment, became a police, and then rebelled against 2 successive governments for misgovernance. And here I am.
And you said that you'd struggled to get an appointment. What was the reason for that struggle?
Is because of my family background. I have been married to a family in which my father-in-law happened to be the chairman of the band United Nations Celebration Front. Because of my family, I wasn't given the appointment because they were scared that if I get into the system, then I'll leak vital information of the Home Department to the organization of my father-in-law.
You protested when your father's whereabouts were not known during REREF in 2010.
I did. I had to.
Yeah. So that was out of necessity. Would you feel that way?
Of course, when a family member has disappeared into thin air, you'll have to protest, isn't it? It is your right, isn't it?
So, on the background of that, the state machinery here was not trusting of you. Is that
Yes, because I protested for my father-in-law for the disappearance of a family member.
Correct. So, did this cause an issue, or did it cause a tense relationship with the state government at the time? It was a Congress government then.
Yes, certainly it did.
Can you describe a little bit more about it? and how did it affect your work?
Because of me taking part in the protest for the release of my finding the whereabouts of my father-in-law, the state developed this animosity and mistrust in me because of my open support to him. So that was the relationship that I had with the then government.
Okay. But then in 2016, you decided to resign.
Yes.
Was that also because of this same reason?
Because of the same reason, because they did not trust me at all, and the harassment was of such magnitude that I could no longer work with dignity in the department anymore. So eventually, I had to leave the job.
So, in your work between those years before the first resignation, were you handling narcotics cases?
No.
It was mainly the other cases that you were dealing with.
Yeah, when I was in probation, I did handle narcotics cases.
Right.
But after probation, I was in Mahila Battalion, in Women's Battalion. There, I did not handle any case.
There was also an extended family member who was implicated in encounter. So was that was around the time of your resignation the first
Yes.
time? So did that have any influence on your decision?
Yes, it did. Because fake encounter was at its height at the time. And we had this Sanjit Rabina killing, which is one of the most famous encounter killings in broad daylight, conducted by the state in the heart of the Impal city. So there was this huge public protest for nearly 6 months. The capital was completely brought to a standstill because of the agitation that followed the killing. So this police came out, and he wanted to confess to the public how the killing took place, how he shot this Sanjit in broad daylight. So this thing had to be brought to the knowledge of the public, because eventually we'll get to know how the killings were taking place, how the state was participating in the state terrorism that was being imposed on the people. So it certainly did help me take the decision of leaving the service at the time.
Yeah, coming back to that question about you coming back to police service. So you said at the time the BJP had no problem with your UNLF links. So did that change? Is it because of the drug case that it changed?
At the time when they came for wanting to reinstate me into service, my elders and my patrons felt that this service is nothing, the whole system is nothing. So now that they want to cooperate, just go in and check again what all they don't want us to know, what's taking place within the system. If you don't want, you can leave the service again. Let's just treat it just as a game. So I wasn't there for long term. I knew I could not work effectively in the present system. So just to take the opportunity of finding out what's taking place in the state from within the governance, I was given a green signal by my elders to join back to service. I joined back. The government did not have problem with my background then. Only when I went to arrest some big fishes, then they started having problem with me. Not that I had problem with them. They started having problem with me only then.
So this case that she's talking about, I think we should explain this to our viewers. In 2020, Brinda arrested one of the biggest drug lords of Manipur, and everything that she had to say about the case is in document in an affidavit that was put in court in 2020. So this case, can you briefly tell us how this changed your relationship with the BJP government, and this preceded your leaving the service again?
See, case was going to bring the historic judicial precedence in the state of Manipur in terms of conviction of people arrested with drugs. And this was a powerful man that was arrested in the present case. And we have this history of drug proliferation and drug abuse in the state for many decades. So this was going to change the scenario of drug cases. And when this man was vehemently protected by the head of the government, and he was let off Just like that, eventually things had to turn nasty because something which has got the capability of changing the landscape of the state in terms of drug abuse and drug proliferation, when you do not allow it to happen, when you interfere in it and allow things to continue in the same old manner, then things are bound to erupt. So eventually, I had to, end up leaving the service.
In the case, you mentioned that you received calls from a BJP vice president and you spoke to Biren himself on the call during the raid. So this this points to a certain level of involvement in the BJP trying to stop a drug lord from being arrested, correct?
In the first instance, when I spoke to the Chief Minister, he did not know that this man was his man. So he loaded me. He allowed me to go. He told me to go ahead with the arrest in case I found any drugs in his premises. And later on, when he found out that this man was his man, only then he interfered and ordered me to release him.
Correct. And what? How does this go with the whole political idea of Biren, where he talks about the war on drugs, right? So, if is it a sincere effort to stop drugs? You think?
Certainly, it's not, given the facts of what has happened before.
Are there any other examples to substantiate this, or is this the only one that is publicly
See, now
available?
what's happening? This present escalation, this crisis, it has come out of narcotics cartel. We all know, this whole nation knows. So if the war on drugs is really effective and genuine, then states should have won the war, isn't it, by now? There shouldn't be any conflict, there shouldn't be any violence, there shouldn't be any communal strife. Now, the war was genuine and effective, isn't it? Manipur police isn't able to operate anywhere in the hills now. Shouldn't they be operating effectively in the hills if the war was genuine?
But using your example, some claim that the war on drugs was a systematic elimination of those in the drug trade who did not agree with the BJP government. Do you agree?
No, this war is a selective assault on certain group of people in the name of war on drugs, just to show to the world and the people of Manipur that there is something being taken up by the government of Manipur against drugs. Because when you let off certain people, when you book certain people, then there is selective war. And with selective action, there cannot be genuine war.
So when you say selective, is it a selective action against his political or rivals in the drug trade?
I do not even think about that. I feel that this war is totally a hogwash. It's never there.
But it has a big implication on what's happening now.
The war is not genuine, hence we are failing now.
Where is the drug lord now? Kuki Zoo, and how much time did he spend in jail?
He spent about 6 months in jail.
And where is he now? He's acquitted, and
He has been acquitted. I don't know his whereabouts now.
has the Manipur government challenged the case?
They have been made to go for appeal by the Supreme Court.
There was some confusion. I see Imphal Free Press and Indian Express writing conflicting stories. Did the appeal get filed by the government?
See, the state government refused to go for appeal. The Chief Minister declared to the public that he was happy with the judgment of the case in the acquittal. And we went to the Supreme Court to force the state government to go for appeal. The Supreme Court ordered them to go for appeal. Now it's in the appeal stage.
In some sections of the Meitei society and and in India, there is a claim that Kukis are very deeply involved in the drug trade. Your example or this particular arrest also alludes to that, but you have also said that all the communities are involved at different stages of the trade. Could you explain that?
See, this narcotics mafia is a huge mafia, and in the whole cartel, people from all communities are taking part, ranging from politicians to drug lords, financiers, middlemen, militant groups are all together in this together. Because drug proliferation of this magnitude cannot take place without the protection and the security provided by militants which are armed. So The whole cartel is being run by people involved in drugs from all communities, and certainly people from Kuki community have bigger role in this because all the militant groups that are involved in narcotics mafia are from Kuki community, and majority of them are involved in drugs, be it in terms of plantation or labor or in the higher rung. And the amount of influx and infiltrators that the drugs have brought in from Myanmar, they have been facilitated by them only.
But the police have given us a document which shows that Meitei Pangals have had 1,083 arrests in the last 6 years.
Yes.
Kukis are second and Meiteis are a distant third. So how do we explain that?
See, the data cannot predict, what to say, cannot tell the real picture of the whole thing. These arrests are the number of people arrested in the cases. It doesn't really signify what's taking place behind the screen. So maximum of the poppy laborers in the hills are Kukis only. So when you count the number of them involved in the actual cartel, when you count these laborers in the hills, you will know the real figure.
But the Meitei Pangals, which is a small community in comparison to Kukis and Meiteis.
Yes.
So what is their involvement? They're part of the logistics and trade.
See, as I said, all the communities are part and parcel of the whole cartel. We cannot generalize, one whole community as wholly responsible or taking part in the cartel. We can't do that.
Okay. Do you think the law and order system has collapsed in Manipur?
It has collapsed, isn't it? People are being burnt alive, isn't it? People are being raped. People are being buried alive, chopped up, isn't it? Eyes being ripped, intestines being ripped out. So, and we are hearing of gross parents every now and then. So, are these examples of law and order being in place?
But then how has the government, what should the government have done on the evening of May 3?
Government should have effectively responded. There was ample of time and opportunity on 3rd of May. From 11:30 till 3 o'clock, say even 4 o'clock. So Kanpur, you must have been there. It's a very congested place with full state administrative machineries. Police is there, all the state forces are there. The Minister of Manipur was holding the unified command. He was the unified commander. He should have utilized all the forces in the district and sent in reinforcement from Imphal, from elsewhere, to control the situation, which was very possible.
But now it has been 3 months and the conflict is still going on in the border villages between the plains and the hills. So, why do you think that this conflict you think that it's been allowed to go on for this long?
In the conflict theory, a conflict of this magnitude cannot take place without the participation of the state. So allowing this to continue for 3 months, it means that the state has to be there, state has to be present.
Are you hearing about the involvement of insurgent groups in both sides who are getting involved in this conflict?
I do hear about that, but it's not substantiated.
Okay. So, do you think that
militant groups from the Kuki sides, they are openly involved because they have been marching with arms and in full fatigue uniform in their protests. They have been openly taking part in protests.
Right.
So they are there openly.
Right.
As for the Meiteis, it's not substantiated.
Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun have been talking a lot on social media, but do you think other groups are involved in the gunfight?
There may be, but it's not again substantiated, as I said.
Okay. So, what do you see as a way forward? Is there a way to, do you see this as a way where territorial integrity can still be maintained and both communities can come together?
See, Manipur cannot be broken up or lines cannot be drawn. It cannot be threatened in any manner. So whatever New Delhi is trying to do in Manipur is futile and it will be counterproductive for them. Because Meiteis we have this long-standing issue on merger agreement, on the merger agreement of Manipur with India. We have to settle that first before they try to draw any line or draw any feature within Manipur. So we have to settle that first. There is the sovereignty question of Manipur. We have been fighting to restore our sovereignty status. And ever since we merged with India, the way things have taken place in Manipur It's been ugly and it's been bad for the state, as we all know. So in this present state of affair that we are in, it has been brought upon by the Indian system of governance and its policies. So whatever they are trying to achieve, they are trying to talk to these, bodies being sponsored by the Burmese nationals, Burmese immigrants. New Delhi is trying to negotiate with these foreigners and leaving the Meiteis out of the interest of Manipur, and they are discussing in New Delhi on the agenda of balkanizing Manipur, which is very dangerous for them because Meiteis will stand up. Will stand up to settle our merger agreement issue, in which case it will be very tough for New Delhi.
There are indications that the poppy harvest is starting next month. Do you think that is also another reason this conflict has been allowed to go on?
See, Manipur police cannot operate in the hills anymore now. So poppy harvest is going to start from next month till the month of March. So there is going to be bumper harvest this year.
And there will be, you are suggesting that...
on top of that mining, the government of Manipur has sold out many mining leases to corporates. And we know Manipur is sitting on a bed of minerals and oil. So ethnic segregation is only going to help in the furtherance of these mining activities.
Is there any particular corporate that has been favored?
I do not have any fact-checking paper or documents in relation to that. But it's there, I can get you the papers.
Okay. And regarding the poppy trade, so you are saying that between the next month and between the month of March, the drug cartel here is going to see an enormous benefit.
Yes.
And are you suggesting that the conflict is being allowed to go on because they want to...
I feel so.
They want to take the money out of the cartel.
We don't know what's taking place exactly, isn't it?
Right.
So to find out the rationality, we have to find out which people and which institutions are being benefited out of it.
Correct. That is, I think, a journalistic inquiry required here. What do you feel about... there is a demand from certain sections to do an NRC in Manipur. So what is your position on this?
NRC should be conducted, but it should be conducted in such a manner that we should seal the borders of Manipur.
Okay.
And we should conduct NRC of Mizoram and Nagaland first. And then after their completion, we should conduct NRC in Manipur.
Okay.
Only then we'll be able to find out who are who. And all these propagandas and lies being aired across the world, they'll fall flat on their face.
But don't you think that from 2015, when those 3 bills were introduced, one is related to the Manipuri identity, one was the MLR, NLR, the land reforms, the other were the shops and establishments. There has been a consistent pressure building from the Kuki community. Do you feel like it was not a spontaneous violence that happened in May this year, that there was...
It's not a spontaneous violence, it's the result of long-term bad policies. Partisan politics of the government of India and government of Manipur. That installed puppet governments, successive puppet governments in Manipur, which are obedient, who hold on to their shits.
You mentioned the bad policies. Can you describe some of these bad policies that you think have...
See, bad policies that people have been divided on ethnic grounds. People have been made to blame each other for any of the miseries, for any of the sufferings that the communities are made to go through. So the tribal people have been blaming the Meiteis for any problem of the hills. But at the same time, the Meiteis also, we have been facing the same problems under bad governance. This they have failed to see. So the people have been divided, and drug proliferation started in 1980s, and it has escalated from there onwards. And the poppy has infested in all the hill districts of Manipur. Can this take place without the participation of the state?
That's what we are also figuring out and reporting here, that Manipuri has many different identities, but now I think everybody is just holding on to or talking about the one Meitei identity. So a Manipuri can be a Meitei and a journalist and an activist, and but when we talk to voices, there is not a lot of people who are calling out this violence for what it is. Do you feel that way?
Is it?
A lot of people are in the Meitei society, especially I'm asking this question about, are not calling out the violence for what it is, but are divided into, if you ask them, they'll say the opposition is the cookies, but they're not talking about the role of the state in this. Do you feel that way?
See, we have to find out the role of the state if we have to solve the crisis. because this is not an ethnic conflict. This is not an conflict between the Kukis and the Meitei. This is a conflict between people who want to break Manipur using drug money and drug power, and the people who want to save Manipur. So, for those who want to save Manipur, we have to find out the participants in the conflict who are taking part in it and the role of the state in the whole crisis.
Have you been speaking to different groups now about bringing them together to the table for a discussion on this?
No, I have been observing them.
Okay, you've been observing that. Do you think there's a chance that both the communities in this region has seen ethnic clashes before, and the 1990s Naga Kuki conflict was, the death count was a lot higher. It was a pre-internet era. But do you see this, territorial integrity of Manipur sustaining, and the Kuki and the Meitei community being separated for some time but coming back together to live together?
Territorial integrity of Manipur will sustain, will prevail at all costs, number one. And Manipur cannot be balkanized in any manner, or lines can be drawn within Manipur in any manner. This buffer zone that is being created between the hill and the valley, this cannot sustain. The government of India has to remove this. This will divide the ethnic lines further. And certainly the Kukis and the Meiteis will come back together, but it takes genuine effort from the side of the state, and there has to be responsible government in the state to bring the two warring communities to the table for talks, because we have to ultimately come to the table for talks and start the dialogue.
Do you feel like this has set Manipur back by decades? That's the
Yes.
conversation we are having.
Yes,
And how do you feel about it?
I feel very sad.
One more question I had was, when you were heading the narcotics police, when you arrested gangs, the composition of the gangs was all communities, is it?
Yes,
So every community had a certain role to play in the drug trade.
certainly.
Okay. And did the UG groups also have links to when the NSCN was at its height, let's say in the 90s? Were they controlling the drug trade? Is that how the history of the drug trade goes in this region?
I did not find out any connection between NSCN-IM and drugs in my
Okay.
stint in police. But I did find out that the Kuki militants are involved in drugs
Okay. That is in the history or now?
now.
Now. So that is in the last 10 years.
Historically also, they have been propped up using drugs only.